What's up guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Dialogue with Dave. As a tennis player, tennis coach, and sports psychologist, I wanted to talk to different people and get their experiences in sports. Today, I have a really special guest. His name is Cole.groetsch, Division I tennis player. Let's get right into this. What's up, Cole?
What's up?
Nice to see you. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about you, about tennis, about some sports psychology things, and kind of just get into it.
Okay, that's great.
So first thing is, why do you play tennis?
I started as a little boy. My dad's a former ATP player and tennis coach now, and it was just always something that I was supposed to do. Like, as a young age, started playing tennis and just continued on that path.
Great. Alright, so why do you continue to play?
I continue to play because I want to, in a competitive way, I think I wanted to push past what my dad was able to achieve. I wanted to, like, better him, I would say.
Yeah.
But,
and how's that been going?
I mean, he could have gone to college, played D1. He just went right to the pro tour, and I'm on the college level, but a little bit behind him still, so.
Yeah, you still got time.
Yeah, still have a couple years to maybe make that jump, but.
Yeah, and I know you were talking about college. Where do you go? And I heard you were transferring, right?
Yes, so I played my first 2 years at University of North Carolina, Wilmington.
Okay.
And I'm now transferring to Bellarmine University in Louisville, Kentucky.
Great.
Yeah.
You excited about that?
Very excited. It's an opportunity to go play. I formerly played 6 singles and 1 doubles, and now I'm going to be able to play top 3 in the lineup to be able to prove myself a little bit, so it's exciting.
Yeah, I definitely know the struggles of starting low and kind of working your way up.
Yeah.
Same thing with me in college, but I kind of got lucky a little bit where I got to, kind of come in as one of the top players.
Yeah.
I mean, the pressure's there, but it's good pressure, I think.
Yeah, it depends on, I really feel like the person in that type of pressure. It's how you handle that.
Exactly. Exactly. So, if you could achieve anything in your tennis life, what would be like the biggest achievement you could have?
For me, the biggest achievement I would say is to right now maybe push the winning NCAAs. Right now my goals have changed a little bit. I don't know if I want to push for the ATP 4 or anything like that, maybe doubles. But right now it's single focused on making a push in the ITA regional tournament and trying to get ranked.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that, because a lot of people who, as a great junior player, they're like, oh, I want to be number one in the world, I want to go pro. Then they get to college, and not that they're not the best college player or anything, it's just they kind of see maybe I'll play college tennis and, kind of have fun on playing outside of, USTA or outside of just kind of playing for fun. Because a lot of that changed for me. That changed for a lot of my friends who were really good players. I had one of my best friends went to Duke, played number 1 singles. It was amazing, and now he works and plays for fun and he loves it. So so you're not the only one who's kind of made that choice. And not to say that it can't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, doubles would be sick.
Yeah, doubles is awesome.
Yeah. So how important is it for you to achieve your goals?
For me, right now I've been working a lot with my father. I really love coaching, so for me to achieve my goals, I would say is really important. I want to make sure I get everything I can out of my personal tennis experience, so that I can take that and use that later on in maybe the coaching world or something along that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the route I took when I started coaching for fun at 16. Played college. I worked at a couple tennis clubs, and it was fun, but I knew that it wasn't my path. But even today, I coach, do it for fun. I play for fun, and I know a couple of my friends and a couple of colleagues that that's their full-time job. They fell in love with it and they love it, and that's it. Tennis for life.
Yeah, always.
Right. So going back to kind of playing, what are some of the preparations you take to get ready for a match or get ready to train, even just practice? You know, what are some things that you do to prepare?
The more general aspect I would say is if I'm leading up to a tournament, like my training is a lot of, I'd say structured points. I would always do different situations. I would be put in varying situations, like if you're down love 40, you're down 15, 40, 30 all, like different type points,
Yeah.
making sure the rally balls are good, making sure you're always being solid. And just always send a lot of balls, working on your footwork, your conditioning.
Yeah.
And as you get closer, you start cooling down a little bit. But
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's situational tennis.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But so how do your everyday kind of behaviors, do they affect you at all? I mean, do you kind of do something different maybe when you have a tournament coming up, or just maybe you don't have anything, but how do your like daily behaviors affect you overall?
my daily behaviors actually affect me quite a bit. So if I'm having a bad day or something's going on in the classroom or personal life, that does for me carry on to the tennis court. I try my best to, push aside once I step in between the white lines. For me, I try to narrow a focus, but there are times obviously where it's too hard and you're thinking about things. So, and it can play a part in your mood.
Yeah, one of the things that I teach a lot of my sports psychology clients, or mental coaching, whatever you want to call it, is I call it what it is. Stay in the present.
Yeah.
When you are on the court, and you can say this for any sport, but specifically for you, when you step onto the court, the only thing you should be thinking about is tennis.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things that you could say, split step, swing, follow through tennis, whatever it is, just when you're in that space, that time you give 100% focus onto that. And everything outside, that can be taken care of later. And one thing that, I was working with someone about your age, a college player, and he was telling me that, he was having trouble with his girlfriends, his parents, school. And I told him, when you play, when you step on the court, try to forget about all that. Try to just let that go away. And when he came back to me a week later, he said, it worked. It worked really well. And I'm not saying it's going to work for everyone or for you, but staying in the present is like the absolute most important thing that I teach to people. I think that's something you should maybe try.
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't, already.
Yes.
So, when you are the most competitive version of yourself, what does that look like?
The most competitive version of me is pretty fiery. Well, every time I win a point, it's come on. It's always rallying the people around me. Obviously, college tennis, you're all playing 6 courts, so the most competitive version of me is firing up everyone around me, making everyone better. So it's just like the team atmosphere for college. When you're the most competitive version of myself, really gets everyone going.
Yeah.
So it's fun, it really is.
It is fun, yeah, for sure. I mean, what happens when maybe you're not playing so well and you're losing, and are you verbally saying it? Are you physically showing it, or is that kind of something that you kind of try to hide?
I used to. So I used to be very emotional and negative to myself, and that held me back a lot. But my freshman year, I took time to work on myself, and so after the freshman year, I never let missing a shot or being in a bad mood affect me negatively while I'm playing. Like after I'd hit a winner or they'd miss, I'd always be positive, pump myself up, but if I missed, I would never go negative. So I was always up or neutral. I would never go down.
Yeah, it's funny because I used to be, I don't know how I am now, but I used to be like a really hothead, break rackets, curse, get point penalized, all that negative stuff. And, like you're saying, staying positive or staying neutral. One thing you can do, and one thing that I learned that kind of helps me is, if you do want to go below the line a little bit negative, let it out. Let it out, but then go right back to that neutral mind, and everything that we talk about is going to go right back to the present. What happened in the past, it's over. You let out all your negative, whatever it was. I'm not saying be super happy you're missing, but let it out. Go right back to that neutral. And sometimes people think, oh, I can't do that, but really that almost helps kind of just to scream.
Yes.
Just, let it all out. So, and this one is kind of focused to, your parents. And a lot of people don't understand that. Parents have a big effect on kids. Kind of explain the dynamic of your mom and dad when either they would watch you or when you're playing and they're not there. What kind of, do you feel more pressure, less pressure? Kind of describe what that's like.
So I would always travel with, for the most part, my mother. My dad worked as he is a tennis coach. So I felt more secure with my mom being there. And when my dad would come watch, it would put a lot of pressure on me because my father's also my coach. And
Yeah.
for me, knowing that he's there watching me, critiquing me was still a bit more stressful and put more on me, I would say. So I was definitely more comfortable with my mom around. But
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. My dad was not my coach, but he traveled with me everywhere. I mean, we took 5-hour drives, flights, everywhere to matches. And I always always look up at my dad. You ever do that? You ever just look up to whoever's there?
Yep, seeing if they approve of what you just
Exactly,
did.
yeah. Yeah, so I'd always look, and I would only look when it was bad. I would never look when it was good.
Yep.
And I was always just like, he was there, and he was like, oh.
You make a mistake, you look at the reaction, and you you did something wrong fully.
But then, what's it like when you go without your parents? What's that like?
So the only time I've been without my parents is usually now that I'm in college. The matches for me, it's just, I still look for other people. So my coaches, I would have my assistant coach be on my court most of the time. I'd always look to him, just for like guidance as he did it before. Like I like having someone there watching. I don't like being by myself. I feel like that takes the fun out of time. I feel like having the support, having people around you is big.
Yeah, I mean, when I would travel, sometimes without my parents, it was almost, I wouldn't want to say like a relief, but it was almost like I would look, but just be other parents that I knew, or other coaches, or just other people I knew, but no one was really kind of giving me any like let's go or disapproval. It was just kind of more, I'm free.
Yeah.
In college, we did have a coach, assistant coach, but they wandered and they would come on my court sometimes, but it's almost sometimes playing by yourself, kind of just alone, is also kind of exciting and different. You're your own person.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, what are some of the mental things that you do before matches?
Before or like during?
Both. And after.
Okay, so before matches, I always go straight to music. Music is something that can really zone me in. I also really do like to listen to, say, an inspirational video or something like that pre-match to get me in that competitive mode, get me really zoned in. During a match, depending on what's going on, I always try to keep that calmness. I'm always going to my towel at the back fence, taking some deep breaths, relaxing myself so I don't get stressed out. And after, depending on what the result was, I'm back to listening to some music, just calming myself down. Not that competitive hype music, but more the mellow, maybe some classical stuff just to relax and like detox a little bit.
Speaking of the music, what are some of the pre-match? You don't have to say, you can if you want to be specific, but what's something like the genre that you listen to? What's the type of thing that gets you like ready for that match?
There's obviously rap, hip hop, stuff like that. Something really close and special to me, obviously Philadelphia, is the Rocky soundtrack. That's something I love that series, and it's very inspirational to me, so I love watching or listening to the Rocky stuff, like Eye of the Tiger, Burning Heart, like that stuff's very great for me to get me going.
Let's go Philly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then afterwards, you said like classical, kind of more
Yes,
calm.
calming stuff, get myself to detox after the long,
Yeah.
stressful match.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great. A lot of people go to music.
Yeah.
That's a big one. A lot of people that I know, music is their medicine. You could say, what it's their hype, it's their down, it's everything. So, what's the biggest mental challenge you're facing right now that's kind of stopping you from improving, or not even improving, but just a mental block that you're having now?
This is an exciting mental block, but as we touched on earlier, going from a place where I was in and out of the lineup at 6 to being welcomed into a new home where they expect bigger things out of me. So playing top 3 in a new school, new environment is a roadblock, but it's an exciting one. It's a challenge I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, no, it's definitely exciting. New friends, new school, new team, new coach. It's gonna be an exciting process.
Yes, and also it's very different. I had to learn the new intricacies of this new place and step away from the familiarity of what I was previously in.
Of course, no. I mean it's funny that you said excited. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm nervous," but you're excited, which is the complete opposite. People are like, "Oh, I'm scared," but you're like, "I can't wait."
Because for me, it's the grass is greener. I'm looking forward to being able to prove myself in a different way, and maybe even in a way stick it to my old score. It's like, you know what?
Absolutely.
I can do that.
Yeah, and that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's a great way to look at it. So, speaking of college, and right now we're in the coronavirus.
Yep.
Now, how is the school affecting your tennis life? How is, school in general, Corona school, which is kind of online, I think. Now, how is all that affecting you?
So in terms of the schooling, it's either an online or a hybrid model. My hope is that tennis, since we are a smaller group team, that we don't really have any restrictions, whereas other big teams such as basketball or football, like obviously they have to be divided. But for me, it's in a place where even with training, it's weird. It's like, am I really training right now for? Am I gonna play or not? Like, am I training for a season or am I not? It's just really this gray area. Right? Yeah.
And then what do you like? Even if you might not be playing, right? Because I know fall season might be canceled, but you have the spring season, which is the real season. But what are you kind of doing to, maybe not play? What are some? Are you working on your fitness? Are you still doing tennis? And what is like your preparation for something that might not even happen this year?
So for me, I've been coaching a lot this summer. So I've played a few tournaments, and my training has been much lighter because there is that unknown. So like, for me, I wasn't gonna fully ramp into something I don't know that's even gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I've been much smarter with my training rather than heavy with it.
Yeah, it's funny that you say you've been coaching. When you started coaching, did you kind of notice some of the things that maybe, coaches told you, and now you're saying it, and you kind of look back and you're like, wow, now I get it.
Yeah, it's the best and the worst thing at the same time. So for me, like, I can pick apart any kid's mistake that I'm teaching, and I know it like it's the back of my hand, but when I'm going to do it and I'm doing and I make that exact same mistake I just told my student not to make, I'm like getting upset with myself now. Like, you already know the mistake that you're making and you're still doing it. Yeah,
it's funny, when I started coaching, same thing, I knew everything.
Yeah.
This, do split step, follow through, keep your wrist up, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I could say it, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where it comes in. Like, especially when I work with people one-on-one and I'm doing the mental coaching. I tell them everything that's correct. Everything I've learned, everything the way, and then I know that if I did it myself, I'd be so productive and so,
Right.
but I just don't do it. And then you know how people say it's easier said than done? Definitely
For sure.
easier said than done in everything.
Yep.
In everything. This is kind of a cool question. How do you know when you're getting good advice? And how do you know when you're getting bad advice? And who kind of is the advice coming from? That is good and bad.
In my mind, I would say good advice is coming from people that I would be considered in my inner circle, where someone I would say I trust with my life or something like that. Like, I believe those are the people that will tell me honestly what I should or shouldn't be doing. Whereas I would say not all the time are you going to meet a stranger and say it's bad advice, but you're going to maybe take that advice less seriously.
Have you ever got advice from someone in your inner circle that you didn't agree with, or that you thought at that point was not good for you, or even bad advice?
Oh, absolutely.
But
But
how do you handle something like that? How do you tell them, you know, or do you even say anything to them?
so, depending on what it is, maybe I would try it first and get back and like, hey man, like that wasn't really the best advice, or it's something that if they give it to me, I would respect their opinion and respect their advice and thank them for it. But I'd also look back at it and think about both sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever had kind of, well, I mean, you could say fight, confrontation with someone in your inner circle because of advice or that they gave you? That, you know, maybe they thought it was the best and you were like, it's the worst thing I ever heard in my life.
Not with anyone in my inner circle, maybe a coach or something like that, but definitely not.
You mean college?
Yes, yeah, definitely not someone in my inner circle for advice sake, obviously.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, I can't say the same for, you know, myself or for some people I know.
But I'm 20 years old, so obviously that might happen down the road, so I'd have to be prepared for something like that.
Yeah. What skills and attributes make you the best athlete you can be?
Just I always say the competitiveness and the will to win, I would say,
Yeah.
is what really makes you an athlete. Like, you'd rather die than come off that court, or at whatever sport you're doing. Like, you're gonna give your 110% every single time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes you really the athlete.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, that fighting, you know, with the last bit of energy you have just to
Yeah.
win that, you know,
Exactly.
just to get to that match point or win that match point, you know.
And that's what sports is all about, in my opinion. It's like, how much are you willing to sacrifice and give up versus that other person that you don't know how much they're willing to give up, and it's that battle between will.
Yeah, it's funny that you said give up because, like, what are you willing to give up, right? One thing that people tell me, and I'm not gonna say this is specifically for boys or girls, it's for both. You know, there's gonna be, and you're past this part, so maybe you can relate, right? There was birthday parties, weekend parties, and as you know, all tennis tournaments are Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
You know, and since you are now in college, you know, what have you missed? You know, what are some of the things that you've missed because of a tournament?
Well, to start, I didn't even go to high school or middle school. I gave up the traditional brick and mortar education system for my tennis. Obviously you give up your friendships and stuff like that, like maybe a prom or maybe a night out with the guys, something like that. You always have to sacrifice something in order to
Yeah.
achieve something.
And one thing I noticed with myself and with people I played with, you know, I was invited to Sweet 16s, I was invited to birthday parties. I'm not saying I didn't go.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, you can't just tennis your whole, or whatever sport you're doing your whole life. But I did miss a lot. But what I noticed is when I went to these big tournaments, it was the same people.
Every time.
It's the same people, and then you have to realize, you know, you're missing something, but they're also missing these things. These people are making sacrifices just the same way you are. And when I realized that, I said, you know, maybe this guy also had a birthday party that he missed, or maybe he did have a vacation that he could have went on, but, you know, didn't go, like you said, maybe he's homeschooled, and maybe he has a completely different outlook. And that's some of the things that people don't realize. Like, oh, I'd rather go and have fun and party.
Yeah.
I'm all for fun and partying.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna choose that over your tennis or your sport, whatever it is, you're never gonna get to where you want to go.
Exactly.
And that's something that's tough for people because their social life is more important than their athletics, and that's okay.
And I would say at a young age it's hard for, I'm just gonna call them juniors, it's hard for them to give up the things in the now for their future.
Yeah.
So that like they're living very narrow minded, like they're with their focus and they don't see the big picture yet.
Tunnel vision.
Yes, extremely.
There's no okay, what happens after tonight?
Yeah, and it's like, oh, my friends are doing this. I don't want to stick out of the group. I want to be with my friends. They're not willing to be great and step outside of that. And you say, you know what, I'm on a better path.
Yeah, people are scared to be unique. People like to be normal.
And fit in with the crowd, you're right.
Sometimes it's better not to fit in.
Yep.
Some of the greatest people in the world don't fit in.
Exactly.
So when you go and train, and practice is way different, what are some of the things that you try to do in training that you wouldn't do, match play time?
So in particular to like fitness training or just on court stuff?
Let's just talk about on court for now. Yeah.
Okay. So instead of like match play, just on court?
Yeah, like you walk in, and I guess let's say your dad's coaching you. What are some of the things that you are like, okay, I'm doing this today. Like what is the thing?
For me, it's always, no matter what the day is, I'm always working on a pattern or a just backhand cross or forehand cross, making sure I'm always solid.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously there's different days that you work on different things, obviously leading up to a tournament or a match. But every single day that I would train, you're always doing some sort of drill about being solid, maybe in a pattern.
What are you working on right now? Is there anything that you're working on right now?
Backhand cross. Just making sure that I can last in a point 15, 20 balls, no matter how far out on the court I'm pushed, how far back I'm pushed, making sure I can last in the point to be able to step in and to be aggressive.
And when you're doing that, is it rally balls? Is it you just hitting a backhand?
It usually is feed ball, but it can be both. You got a sparring partner back there to rally with, and you're working on the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You like to train with players that are your level, higher than you, lower than you. Is there a specific person that you prefer training with?
I would actually love to play with all of them because, no, in terms of practice, you want to play with someone, I would say that's the same or better than you.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of, like, if you're playing practice set, you want to play all three levels. You want to be able to beat the person that you're better than, be tight and compete with the person you're the same as, and get better each time playing the person that's better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's a great answer. A lot of people don't get that. They don't want to play with someone worse than them. And I ask them why. Like, because I'm better than them. I said, but this is a chance for you to work on stuff that you're not good at. Maybe you're not good at serving volleying. Maybe you're not good at volleying. Maybe work only second serves, That's what people don't get, And that's funny that you're one of the few people that I've talked to that said this, I want to work with someone worse.
Yeah.
I want to work with someone better than someone equal.
One, it gives you the ability to, like you said, experiment, do things you're not comfortable with doing. But it's another thing where you feel like you're in complete control. You're better than this person by maybe it's 1 level, 2 levels. It doesn't matter. Like, you're in control of that match, and you can work on being the aggressor. You can work on different things.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
It's just confidence. Like, you're winning, playing this person. It's giving you confidence.
Yeah. So, are you putting yourself in pressure situations when you train? Do you ever do that?
Absolutely, those situational points is the closest thing I think you can get to a pressure uh, situation at a match. I don't think you can ever simulate a match in practice. I think it's almost impossible because of the nerves and the different things going through you that you just won't feel in practice. But I feel like that's the closest thing. It's saying, trying to put yourself actually in that spot, say it's 30-all, like, I need to make sure I make this first serve and then create a forehand or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't think you can really replicate it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't replicate it. But one thing, I always give people this example. Third set, 6-5. You got 5-6, your server. 30-40, they have match point, you have a second serve.
Yeah. You know they're gonna make that serve then.
You're gonna make the serve, they're gonna make the serve. Flip it around where you're the one serving now.
Yeah.
Now it's 30-40. You have to win this point when the match is over. And I want to ask you specifically, how do you make that point feel like the very, very first serve, the very first second serve of the match? Is there something you do to make that point feel like just a nothing point?
I don't think personally I would make it ever feel like just a nothing point, like you said, but I always go to my favorite play. Like, if I'm down in the score and it's important, I need to win the point, I'm going kick, serve, and volley every time, because that's something I feel the most comfortable with. So I'm always going to do something that I feel is my best play, and I will run that every single time in that exact same situation.
And that's actually the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's called a routine.
Yep.
Do you have a ritual that you do before you serve? For example, when I serve, I bounce the balls 3 times and go into my motion. And I do it every single time. Because when you do something the same, you're always going to feel the same. The situation could be different, but if you're 1, 2, 3 into the motion, that's different than 1 bounce go or 7 bounces. If you just do it the same, it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
Do you have something like that?
No, but I should. So you're exactly right. On the service motion, maybe I bounce it twice. Maybe I'm stressed and I bounce it once, or I take longer bounces 7 times. I don't have a routine like that, but
Yeah.
I always do go to the back fence, calm myself down before, and like I said earlier, I always have that play that I'm gonna do. But that is
Yeah.
something I actually really like and I'm gonna try.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, that's something that a lot of the younger kids, I like to teach them right away. Because usually some of the older kids, they have, I won't say kids, but some of the older people, they kind of have something like that. But with the young kids, I like to tell them, I want you tomorrow to go out, I want you to try a couple things. Pick the one that you like, do it for a week or so. See if it's something you like, and if that's what you like, that's what I want you to do for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
And they say the rest of my life, I gotta make a decision when I'm 7, 8, 9 times again. But then you kind of see these people 7 years in the past, in the future, I'm sorry, and they're doing it, and they're successful.
You need a routine.
I remember when I was about 12 years old, and I was deciding if I want to put my feet together or apart on my serve. A coach came up to me and said, "Today, right now, you're picking. What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're going to pick right now. Are you putting your legs together or not?"
Yeah.
I was like, "I guess I like it when I don't put them together." And he said, "That's what you're doing. Forever."
Yeah.
And still to this day, I'm 28. I did this when I was 12. I don't put my feet together.
Yeah.
And I probably never will.
13, you grew accustomed to it.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, what is getting in the way right now for you in terms of playing your best? Is there something that's kind of in the way that's stopping you from being the best you can be?
I would just say confidence in myself sometimes that's always a barrier that someone needs to get through, is just being confident with themselves. So that's what I would say is the only barrier I really have is confidence.
Yeah, being confident, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to be confident, especially, in college or, in life in general, confidence is something that's tough to get, but when you get it, or when you really believe in yourself, this is another thing, I could believe in you,
Yeah.
your sister, your parents, your brother, anyone, everyone can believe in you. But if you don't believe in yourself, nothing's ever gonna happen.
Exactly.
It just won't.
That's very true. And the thing with confidence is it's so hard to gain, but it is just so easy to lose.
Yeah.
That's the tough part about it.
So, this is kind of a different question, but how many hours of sleep do you get a night usually? I would say college and like summer, like your break and your not break.
So in college, I'm more of a night owl. I think my brain works a little better at night. So I would say I get to bed maybe by 12, and I wake up the next morning by 7:15, 7:30 to get to class. And in the summer, maybe I'm awake, hanging out with my friends or something till like 1:30 maybe, tops. So it's a little bit different, but I am more of a night owl, so I do like to be up later.
I would say that's pretty normal. That's not too late. That's not 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Waking up maybe either 6 a.m. or 1 in the afternoon. You have a pretty solid sleep schedule, which a lot of people don't understand, but that is huge.
It's so important.
If you don't get the right amount of sleep, if you don't eat the right food before the night before, that carries over into the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, obviously with sleep, people are like, okay, I go, what do you mean food? If you eat like a bunch of junk food, fast food, that's gonna carry over into your next day.
I was always taught that your body is a sports car, and if you put cheap gas in the sports car, it's not going to run efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be its best.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
And just sticking with sleep, kind of tell the people, why do you think sleep is important?
I mean, it controls your mind. Like if you don't sleep, you're not really there the next morning. Some people think, oh, I'm just gonna have some coffee or a Bang energy drink and I'm gonna be okay. Like
first thing you said.
Yeah.
It controls your mind.
Yep.
If you don't sleep, you're not gonna be ready to work your mind, and your mind controls everything.
Yep.
If you don't have the right amount of sleep, if you don't have the right amount of energy, if you don't have anything, your brain controls you. Your brain is your control center.
Yep.
And if you're not in control, if you can't have, give your brain all the fuel it needs, that's when you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, that doesn't matter, sleep, what I eat. It matters.
People think like I'm gonna have a coffee or an energy drink, and little do they know is they're gonna have that spike of energy, but then they're gonna crash, and they're gonna crash hard.
Mm-hmm.
So
I want to get into these last couple questions are going to be mental training kind of related. So as much detail as you can, because this is something that a lot of people don't really know about. There's kind of a stigma with the word sports psychology, and I want people to understand that there's nothing wrong with you. It's not like you're a sick person if you go and see a sports psychologist. You go to see a sports psychologist because you want to improve your mental game to improve your overall game.
yeah.
So these questions I'm going to ask you, try to explain, because nothing that we're talking about, I'm not going to go, oh, Cole's sick. He's got mental problems. I'm going to ask you some of these questions and just go into detail and just be like, explain to people who are watching that, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is kind of how I feel. Because maybe people feel the same as you, but they don't know, they never talked to anyone about it.
Personally, I don't understand the stigma because like as athletes, you train your muscles every day. Like, why don't you train your brain as well?
Yeah, that's actually something that's actually right out of the book.
Yeah.
You know, your brain is you got to train your brain muscle.
And the mental part of a sport is actually one of the hardest.
Especially in an individual sport.
Tennis, it's brutal. It's the hardest part about tennis is the mental part of it.
So, this is something you were talking about. Where does your confidence come from?
My confidence really comes from the amount of time I put into it. Like repetitions. It's like, for me, I've done this before, type thing where
Yes.
like I know that I can do it.
People tell me their confidence comes from winning. I said, yeah, I get it. So if you lose, that means
You lose all your
you
confidence.
lose all your confidence.
No.
One thing that people don't get, and people haven't thought about, is when you lose a match, unless you lost 0-0 and you didn't win a single point, you literally won 0 points, then it's okay to have no confidence and be whatever. I don't really know if anyone's ever doing. I don't know if anyone's ever had a golden match like that.
No.
So you're playing matches, and you're gonna lose matches. You're gonna win some. You're gonna lose some.
Yep.
You know, hopefully you're winning more than you're losing. But when you lose, what are some of the things that you do well, right? Write down, not write, even talk about, like, you know what, my second serve was really great today.
Yep.
Or,
Taking
perfect
the positives
example,
out of your match.
my backhand cross court was incredible. I've been working on it and it was so good today.
No.
You know, what let me down today was my volleys and my forehand.
I'm really glad you touched on that because after every single match, I go into the notes on my phone and I write exactly the score, the date, how I played, what I did well, what I did wrong, what I need to work on the next day coming out of the match.
And that's awesome because what you can do the next day is work on what you didn't do well.
Exactly.
And going all the way back to why don't you play with people who are worse than you, that gives you a chance to work on what you're not good at.
Exactly.
You're not going to go and play someone that's your level or better than you and do something that you're bad at. You're going to go and play with someone that's worse than you, that yeah, you can go and beat them with your forehand all day long, but you know, your volleys sucked. So
Yep.
you're going to start volleying against him all the time.
And you want to put yourself in those situations.
So then when you do
100%
play,
right.
so when you do your match play with someone that's your level or better than you, now you can throw that in there, and then you feel more confident in a match doing it.
100%
And then
right.
it goes full circle. And that's awesome that you do that.
Yep.
That really is awesome. So, I know we talked about this a little bit, but if you go into a little bit more detail, how do you prepare mentally for a game? And maybe say you listen to music, but give me kind of give me the night before, right before the match, and after. Give me the whole thing from 24 hours before.
So the day before when I go into practice to train for that next match, it's a light hit, but it's a hit with intent. So you're working on your strengths, you're doing some things, you're doing point play to work on that situational stuff, but there's a really big intent there. Let's say our usual practice is 2 hours, 2.5, you're only hitting for 30, 45 minutes because you want to save that energy. But you play with an intent the day before, lightly. You need the hydration's very key. Even 48 hours before, not just the day before, hydrating. And always carb loading the day before.
Yeah.
Always.
Going back to the food.
Yep.
It's super important.
Yep. The
That's
dinner
great.
before, the night before matches, heavy carbs almost exclusively. It's because that carries over the next day.
Give
forward.
some examples to the people. What are some good foods that you eat?
The night before, I love a good chicken parm. I love just that whole pasta, the breading, like all that. It just will stay with you the next day.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of the day of having like a huge pancake breakfast or something like that because I feel like that slows you down a little bit. But the night before, it gives you that extra time to actually digest that.
Yeah, I'll tell you for sure that I didn't eat at all before matches. It was like, it's just like I wasn't hungry.
Yeah.
I was just like ready to play. And I was like, no, I can't have it. On the court, when I'm on the court, maybe a banana, maybe like some kind of sports gel or whatever. But for me personally, I would wake up and like, I don't want anything. And I would say maybe that's a little bit wrong, and some people.
I agree. I'm the exact same way. Breakfast is not my most favorite thing.
I never eat breakfast in general.
Yeah.
But before matches, and I'm talking about even in my men's league. I'm in a mountain, and now it's Corona, no men's league.
Yeah.
I was waking up and I was like, oh man, like my men's league match. It didn't eat too much, but I was like,
excited.
I was like, let's go. Like no food, let's just get on court. Bring a Gatorade and water, and I'm ready. You know. But no, that's something that people, that's different for everyone. It really is.
That would really suck because think about it. You put all this preparation in the night before, 48 hours, like even the week prior. You're putting in all this effort to then not fuel your body before a match. It's like you did all that work essentially just to be down. Mm-hmm. Like you tied your own hand behind your back.
Yeah, like why go into a match at a disadvantage?
Exactly.
When you could go in, feeling
great.
You're great and ready to win.
Exactly. So,
and this is actually something that we talked about earlier too. How do you feel when you make a mistake?
We touched on this earlier. I used to feel angry. I used to feel pissed because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I worked on that exclusively. That's something that's gotten better, but I used to feel angry that I would make them, because like we talked about with the coaching, like the mistakes. You heard them all week from your coach, the mistakes that you just made. But now it's more of that, it's okay, like you're gonna miss. It's gonna happen. We're not perfect. Even the best miss,
That's so great, because one of the worst things you can be as a tennis player, as an athlete, is a perfectionist.
Yep.
That is the most negative thing, because you're not gonna be perfect.
Yep.
You can take the best players in the world, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. They miss.
Yep.
They lose they don't lose much, but they lose.
Yep.
If you expect to be perfect, you're gonna expect to lose.
Yep, and you're always in a bad state of mind if you're like that, because nothing will ever be good enough unless you're playing the best tennis,
You'll never be happy because, it's perfect. I understand if you do something where you need to be perfect, but as a tennis player, as an athlete, and as an individual athlete, if you want to be perfect, you're gonna fail. You want to be just a little bit better than okay, because a little bit better than okay, that 51%, that's what it's gonna take to win the match. If you're 51% positive, that's already better than everything. Understand when you go, you're gonna miss. You're gonna make shots. You might double fault. You might miss a sitting overhead. As soon as that happens, instead of reacting negatively or reacting it's gone. React how you want to react. Go back to neutral and be back in the present.
Yeah, and it's something my dad did always tell me is you can only expect your worst when you go in there. Like you can only expect your worst, and you can't expect your best. So if you go in there expecting your worst and you play decent, you play better than usual, then you expect that.
I like to tell people, in a year, you're gonna have a couple matches. No matter what you do, you're gonna lose. It's just not your day. You're gonna have a couple. There's gonna be a couple matches in that year. No matter what you do, you're gonna win. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You win that match.
Yeah.
And that's here. This whole center right here. This is where you have to work on being more positive, knowing how to deal with negativity, knowing how to deal with, being upset or being down. That's the hardest part. You're not going to do anything about losing, and you're not going to do anything about winning. That's going to happen.
Yep.
It's the whole middle that you need to worry about.
Yeah, I agree totally.
So you did talk about this, but the behavior of when you make a mistake. you said you'd freak out or whatever.
No.
What is it like now?
It's a deep breath. It's the inhale, exhale, just get yourself under control. It's gonna happen. Like, I'm at a point now where it's okay. Like, it's fine to miss. There's always another point, and correct the mistake, move on, learn from it, get ready for the next point, because you need to be able to bring your 100% focus to the next point. If you leave anything at the last point, you're gonna lose the next point too, and it's gonna carry on as a big snowball, and you're gonna lose that match if you keep dwelling on the past.
I want to take a sidetrack from these questions and kind of ask you, tell me about one of the best matches you ever had. Which is just one of, not the best, but one of the best matches.
I mean, the best match is the match, in my opinion, that you just play solid. Like, it's a match that can go either way situationally, but you handle the moments correctly. And that's a big win in my eyes. Is if you handle the situations well and you win that match, it's very rewarding.
All right. Do you have a specific person that you played that you had a match like that?
Yeah, I did.
Tell me about that a little bit. You don't have to say his name, but
Okay. Let me see. I was playing a fall match against. There's actually two where this happened. I'll use the second one. We were playing at my fall invitational, and I was playing this guy who played anywhere from 2 to 4 for UNC Greensboro. And this is a match that, my coach probably don't think I'm gonna win. I'm in and out of 6 for my team, and this guy is the top of the lineup for this other school. And it wasn't that this guy's better than me. One of my guys on my team who ended up playing 4 or 5 might beat him the day before. And I go in the next day, and I'm playing this guy, and I played not my best tennis, but I played good tennis, and I've handled every situation properly. And this was the time where I was working on my ability to never get down and always stay positive. And every situation, every difficult moment that came, I handled the situation perfectly. And I won that match 3-4 or 4-3, something like that. And that was one of my best wins in a fall match. It wasn't even in the spring. It was.
so I know we talked about your best match. We will talk about your worst match, and it's probably gonna be a lot easier to come up with. But
Yeah.
when we talk about behavior, and we talked about how you react and what you're working on, and actually you said that your behavior was great. You were working on it. And look how much better it made you. But going back to now your coaches, your dad is a coach and your college coaches. How do you prefer to receive feedback from a coach? And on top of that, do you want feedback immediately after a match, or do you want to take some time and kind of figure out things on your own?
So me, it's very situational. For me, coaching, I like immediate, like when I'm playing a match, I like to have a coach, like we talked about earlier, back there with me and just keeping me going, keeping me on track kind of. But whereas after match, whether I win or lose, I like to take that time to reflect. I write down what I feel like I did right and wrong. I then later go back to them.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people like to blame other people.
Yep.
You're on there by yourself. You can control what you can control, and you can't control what other people what's happening. People can heckle you. Parents can heckle you.
Yeah.
Coaches can heckle you. You can't control that, so don't let that affect you.
Yeah.
Control what you can control. If you let that get to you, that's how you lost.
Exactly.
And then you're going to blame it on, this person, that. You let that happen.
Yeah. You're right. People are quick to blame other things. You're right.
These next 2 questions are all about pressure. And this is when I'm going to bring up your worst match.
Okay.
How do you feel when you're under pressure?
Anxious. Pretty in my own mind, I would say. So, as we touched on earlier, being that person in and out of the lineup at 6, I felt like I was always having to prove something. Having that extra weight on your shoulders is, in my eyes, not very helpful.
And this is kind of more for people,
Yeah.
but how did you get over this pressure? How did you deal with the pressure? What's something you did to relieve yourself from the pressure?
For me, the pressure was, I mean, and it's still, now that I left, it's not there, but it was there till the end for me. But some things that I tried to do to help was, like we talked about, things you can control. Like, you can't control whether or not you're put in the lineup. That's not your call to make. You control just how you act, how you affect the people around you, because you're by yourself, yes, but it is a team sport. So if you're upset about not being in the lineup or this or whatever, you're also negatively affecting the team's morale and the people around you. So just being in control of what you can control in the fact of training or anything like that is what's important.
I like that you mentioned that. How do your teammates, you and your teammates, how does that feel when maybe, you're in like this kind of pressure, are your teammates helping you? Are they making you feel worse? Are there people on the team that are like, you're like a strong team, or it's like, some people are like, I don't like this guy that much, or he's always making it worse for me.
I was fortunate enough to be at a school where we were so close, we were all like family, and we always wanted what's best for us. But my freshman year, we had a team of 13, which is on the larger side of a men's roster.
For sure.
So we had, I would say, 12 guys that could play in the top 6. And that was tough. Like, you have a lot of egos, you have a lot of different things going on, and that can completely combust a team. And there are some days where it happened, and the team has to get together and be like, you know what, like, it's bigger than one person.
Yeah.
And that was just like the constant struggle of dealing with that and working with the guys that you're supposed to love, that are family. Like, you want what's best for them as well.
Yeah, it's funny because, in high school, you're usually the best player. I know you are. I played number 1. I didn't go to a great college where, the kids were the greatest. So, I played 1 and 2 in the lineup. I was always there. But when you go to Division 1 and big time Division 1, everyone was number 1. Everyone is good. And that, family feeling, that's the best.
Yep.
Because there are, and when you said that, when that did happen, when you guys all like broke up, you kind of came back together and kind of talked it out or figured it out. People, tennis is an individual sport, but if you're a good tennis player, you're gonna play high school and you're gonna play college, and that is a team sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's individual things, but mainly you're a part of a team, and a lot of people don't know how to deal with being on a team because it's an individual sport.
That is the biggest adjustment for most people, I would say, in my opinion.
How did you do it?
There's this tournament I played every March. It was the USDA National Championships. It was played in Mobile, Alabama. I'm not sure where it's played now. I hope it's the same place, but that was where they took the 2 best in the 18s, the 16s, the 14s, and the 12s, and they threw you on a team. And that was my favorite tournament because you played next to your teammates, and it was, for me, simulating college, and I enjoyed that so much. Like, that tournament vibe was different than any other junior tournament because you're no longer alone. And like, the biggest struggle is the fight of being alone. Like, you're constantly by yourself. You're constantly just traveling with your parent or a friend or a coach, and it's a grind. It really is.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's kind of like zones.
Yes, exactly. The intersectionals and zonals. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in my 14s, I played my first zonals.
Yeah.
It was the first time I had a team, and it felt so weird, but at the same time, we all were cheering each other on. And you never see that in in tournaments where you don't have, other people just cheering for you. No one's gonna cheer for you. It's not like that. Maybe your family, your friends, but in zonals, I mean, you're yelling, like going crazy. There's like 20, 50 of you just, let's go, let's go. It's just such a different environment.
Right.
And that carried into high school. When I joined high school tennis, there was parents going crazy, bringing food, like signs, posters. I'm like, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
And in college, it just amplified. It was just like every point there was a celebration.
Exactly.
And, it was awesome.
Yep.
And, your team was always there to help you and to help me. You can talk in the middle of, not in the middle, but like right after points, you get that coaching that you don't see that. That never happens.
Exactly. It's like a whole new variation of the sport of tennis. It really is. It's so different.
So wrapping up here, what about tennis makes you the most happy? What brings you joy?
Just competing. I really just love to get another guy and just go after it. Just like who has more will, who's gonna fight harder, and I think that's the best part about tennis. It's just, and like we talked about, it's a self sport. Like you're by yourself, and it's just who's got more that day. That's the fun part.
Great. So before we wrap up, take a look into the camera, whichever one you want, all of them if you want.
All of them.
And just tell people about you, what you do. I know you're coaching, give yourself, let them know.
Obviously I'm Cole.groetsch. I'm going into my junior year, transferring to Bellarmine University. I work with my dad. His program's Team Stroke Attack Tennis, and I'm coaching for him right now. That's it.
Yeah, I'm going to put everything, in the bio and the link. I'm going to have all the links to you, their Instagram. Thanks for making it through the end of the video. I hope you really did enjoy. Please show me some love. Drop a like. Subscribe to the channel. Also, I'd love to hear your comments. Tell me who you want me to interview, what you want to hear. I really take it to heart. So thanks a lot, and see you next time.